YouTube, what's going on? It's your boy Dell with another DWT, and we just finished watching the last Monday Night Raw before WrestleMania. I would grade the show, I would give it like a C plus, simply because I didn't, in my experience of watching wrestling, especially the last Raw going into WrestleMania, there's usually a bit more chaos. Today felt like uh, controlled chaos, if that makes sense. Like everything was pretty chill. We seen we seen things progress, but nothing that made me say, "Okay, damn, I gotta see this." Let's jump right into the Brock Lesnar Obafemi contract signing. What they did tonight was they realized there's too much pandemonium, there's too much angst between these two guys. Brock Lesnar signed his contract at the beginning of the show. No Obafemi, no outbursts. Paul Heyman cuts his promo, selling Brock Lesnar as he's supposed to do, and Brock signs the contract. Again, that was pretty chill. There's no action, there's no activity, there was nothing really to sell the match to make me feel like, okay, I'm ready to go. Like the last 2 weeks we've seen them involved, but I I'm okay with that. Couple segments down, we get Obafemi come out, getting ready to sign his contract. Paul Heyman interrupts him, cuts a promo, lets Obafemi know that Brock is one of one until Obafemi, and ultimately, when Obafemi loses, he has his door open. Oba rebuts and says he has Brock Lesnar's number. Over the last 4 weeks, he is the one. And if you've been watching the programming, it definitely seems that way. Oba has been having the one up on Brock. Like even when in all these scuffles, to me, Oba's been looking strong as hell. I'm not going to discredit Brock Lesnar in any way, shape, or form, but in all of these exchanges, Obafemi has been looking more dominant, more polished than Brock Lesnar. So this is a good thing because it shows that Brock is willing to put over talent, and he could definitely sell. But in their exchanges, since Obafemi has actually accepted the open challenge, he's been looking like a complete beast. So nothing to note there. He cut a good promo, and it shows that he's not just a strong in-ring worker. He shows that he can get on the mic and he can spit his shit, and that's what you need for a new up-and-coming star. Someone from NXT, someone homegrown that they can put their stock into and pretty much put the business on their back. What is he, like 27? He has a long way to go before they even think about getting him out of the business. So investing in him now, making sure that he does get a W at WrestleMania on the grandest stage on night 2 will definitely be fire. So let's get into Seth Rollins and Gunther. Now this is week 3 of this match build, and it's been pretty straightforward. And what I'm seeing is they're doing this correctly. We have two guys who were supposed to have matches and they fell through, and they looked at the back end of the story and the angle and put them together. Gunther comes out, is about to start his promo. Seth Rollins attacks him. Seth comes out and he says, "You keep saying it's personal. You get back in this ring and you tell me why you want to fight me." And Gunther says that Seth's been ducking him ever since he was world champion. He was doing all these side quests. He was doing things with the Vision, and he wasn't really a contender for him, and now he wants to expose him. Fair enough. Simple enough. And that's the portion of storytelling that people can get behind, right? As much as it started off random, now we can put something in place. And that's all you really need to build that level of chemistry between two superstars to sell a match. Two superstars that are, people care about, just for one. Plot, why are we doing this? What are the risks? And then just execution, really, right? Like, after WrestleMania, this match doesn't even have to continue. It could potentially continue, but if I think what's happening is already in place and Braun Breaker is recovered, then we can easily pivot from Seth Rollins to Braun Breaker if there is an interference at WrestleMania. So this is simple stuff. And the build for this, like I said in my previous video, is something WWE should have done with the Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes storyline. Like, I understand, and we gotta make sure we're all on the same page. When it comes to WrestleMania and celebrities, these come hand in hand. This isn't something that's brand new. This is not a new concept. This has been happening for years. Back in the 80s, you had Mr. T. Back in the 90s, you had Mike Tyson. WCW, they had Dennis Rodman and Karl Malone. And then by no stretch of the imagination is Jelly Roll and Pat McAfee, those two guys. But they're trying to recreate that. The biggest problem with how they're doing this is they're taking up too much limelight in the main event story. What Pat McAfee has brought to the table doesn't shine a light on the feud itself. It just shows that TKO is desperate to to sell tickets. That's what it really means. Anyone who sits down and watches the program understands that this was not the right move. Pat McAfee's not that guy, especially in wrestling. Like if we go back and look at Stone Cold versus Shawn Michaels, and then Mike Tyson was the enforcer. Mike Tyson was a big household name. Like Mike Tyson was that guy. Again, even to this day, he still is. But back in the '90s, he was that guy. And just injecting him into the storyline was interesting. Stone Cold was the toughest SOB. Mike Tyson, the most dangerous man out. And then you put these guys in the ring together, and you get that combustible element. It didn't really take away from what was happening between Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold. It just made it seem like Mike Tyson was on their side. Then we get to WrestleMania, and ultimately Mike Tyson's the one who counts the 3 count on Shawn, and then after the Mac knocks him out. Right, the main story was about the uprise of Stone Cold and to perpetuate his character. He's the toughest SOB. We inject Mike Tyson in. Oh, that's a household name. Pat McAfee really isn't a household name, in my opinion. Right? He may be in the football world, and again, I'm gonna give him his credit and respect in the wrestling world in terms of being a commentator, in terms of a live streamer, because that's what he does and that's what he's good at. For him to get into the WrestleMania main event scene and be on the mic and be as public as he is doesn't do anything for the business, doesn't do anything for the storylines. And I could say that just based on what I see and how I feel about the quality of the product and the expectations and execution, it just wasn't there for me. And I'm not the only one saying that. We have the guys on Busted Open saying that. We have Damian Priest, Cody Rhodes is pretty vocal, and we have CM Punk. That's what, just the 4 people off the top of my head sitting down talking about these things, and it's true. There isn't a proper ROI on this because they're injecting themselves in wrestling business. Pat McAfee doesn't add any extra element. Like if it was anyone else that may have had some sort of legendary status, then sure. But that situation, that person, that promo, it didn't match. There's misalignment, and when you have misalignment, people are gonna call it out. That's just the way it is. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a movie, TV show, a book. If there are holes in a plot, people are gonna call it out because people look at these things and they say, you know what, that doesn't match. So didn't see any mention. Again, I was watching Busted Open, and they said the only thing that could turn it around is if Cody gets his get back on Raw. Nothing happened on Raw. So we got to see what happens on SmackDown for that. But again, the build. Let's focus on the build. The build for Seth Rollins, Gunther, very straightforward. 3 weeks. Sit down, and took them 3 weeks to cook this up and put this out there and gave us something that we can work with. Now we have a backstage segment. We have the Usos and LA Knight, and then we have the MFT's approach. Again, I'm not too sure how or why the MFTs are on Raw, but they pull up, they show up to the show, and Solo essentially tells the Usos that they're always embarrassing the family. They just lost the tag team championships, and they're hanging out with LA Knight. LA Knight comes in, says, we have a six-man tag. We should run this right now as practice. Solo notes that Tama Tonga is nowhere to be found, and they're gonna have the match. So again, the match is okay. Obviously you're gonna build momentum, and it's expected that the Usos and LA Knight are going to win because Again, the MFTs, they're not doing anything. They're just a placeholder, and they just showed up to Raw just so they can fill this match. Match is going on, everything is fine, and then at the corner we see Tom Matanga actually pull up, and he's in the shades and distracted Solo Sokoa. That allowed LA Knight to hit the BFT and Tongaloa, and then win the match. So now they're presenting the storyline that there's going to be dissension within the ranks. Now, mind you, Talatonga, Tongaloa, these are all Tamatonga's brothers. So the one man who will get exiled would pretty much be Solo. And we could see that, again, because it's WrestleMania weekend, we could probably see that happen this Friday. So again, nothing too crazy to note, just a warm-up match for the guys heading into WrestleMania. And then we've progressed the storyline of Solo potentially being kicked out of the MFTs because, again, it seems like they've been pushing Tama for a while. He's been eyeing the United States Championship. We've had Shinsuke Nakamura in his ear. So it's either he distanced himself from the family or he takes the family away from Solo. That's the only viable option I see when it comes down to the MFTs. Roman Reigns and CM Punk are the final segment of the night. Now, if I'm looking at this from a progression storyline perspective, I'm not too sure how this segment worked out. So again, CM Punk came back and he used a promo style that he used in AEW. Tell me when I'm telling lies. Now, over the last 2 weeks, or I would say 3 because last week Roman wasn't there, but there was a lot of shit talk. There was physical attacks, putting each member put each other through the announce table. Now, during this build, it's been pretty physical. It's been clear that these guys hate each other, but this one just kind of seems like everything is stemming from jealousy. Who is the best guy? Who is the better man? Who is the top guy? That's how I perceive the promo. When I'm looking at it, CM Punk is talking about he hates the fact that Roman has accomplished what he's accomplished, him being champion for 1,316 days, the fact that he wasn't born into a royal family, no silver spoon in the mouth, like things like that, right? And then Roman says that he hates the fact that CM Punk has this ingrained relationship with the fans, and if he left for 10 years, if they would remember him the same way and chant his name after 10 years. So to me, it just seems like just straight up jealousy, right? Who is the better man? And the fact that it didn't get physical is interesting, especially knowing that this is the go home Raw. I don't expect anything from these guys on the SmackDown, but based on how everything went, I thought it would have been more. I'm actually kind of surprised that CM Punk apologized after all this time regarding talking about Roman's father, right? So that was shocking to it almost seems like it was a de-escalation going into WrestleMania instead of adding into the crescendo, right? I was expecting to probably see a spear, maybe a GTS, maybe not necessarily a pull apart from security because we've seen that so many times, but someone trying to assert dominance going into the pay-per-view opposed to how the show ended. Like I felt like they stared off for maybe like 4 seconds and the show was done. So to me, that was a little flat. They could have done more with it, and especially when you know that you're going into your top season, right? I feel like they brought it down a little bit. They brought down the emotion a little bit. They sat down and explained why they hated each other, and they could have done a lot more. So my hope is when WrestleMania is actually on, when we get night 1, we get night 2, that there's going to be pure electricity during the show. I'm hoping that we get the right elements and the match is at least good, right? I feel like the way they ended the show was flat. Nothing there made me say, do you know what? I have to tune in. I have to see this. I didn't get that. I just got that, hey, we're going to fill out this card and we're just gonna go home. That's what I got from it. There wasn't enough depth in how the promo went and how it ended. It just seemed like two guys who are envious on how the other person has generated their success, and they want to be the best and they want what the other person has. That's essentially it.